Welcome to The Lost Signals discusses film and TV. Using the revolutionary Manzur-Ramosi Thurlow scale,
or MONS,
we scrupulously review these art forms with an emphasis on narrative structure. Join us for another entertaining episode.
Hello, and welcome to Lost Signals Reviews, Film and TV. I'm your host, Rich Perry, and I'm joined by Jonathan Ian Manzur.
Thank you for joining us.
Scott Thurlow.
Are you interested in the encyclopedia collection, by any chance?
And Stephen Ormosi.
Sorry to bother you.
Tonight we're reviewing the film Sorry to Bother You. And who's got the funny log line to set this up?
I believe Steve-O does.
So this is a Terry Gilliam Spike Lee joint?
Yeah. It's accurate,
Yeah.
I would say.
And you'll find out how accurate by the time we finish this review. So I guess I'll start off by giving the basic plot. We have Cassius Green. He starts off working for a telemarketing agency, and eventually through the use of a white voice, or the patented white voice, he ends up rising to the ranks to become one of their top sellers and moves up to the upper echelon, where he finds out that the company he works for is quite shady, but has trouble distancing himself from it because of how much money he's making. And by the third act, he's
well in their pockets.
Yeah, he's well in their pockets
for a while.
And pretty much struggling very much with who he was and who he should become.
The morality of
the morality
what
of
he's
the
doing,
situation. Yes. And yeah, it's pretty good, right?
You forgot about the horse people.
Well, I think we're gonna get to that later. But yes, the movie takes a pretty hard left turn to like highlight like exactly to the immorality that the company's working for is going, like how they're crossing the line.
Yeah.
I just want to jump in right now with this point. Yes, it's immoral to genetically alter humans into horses, but he also is selling warheads and drones and slaves to people.
Mostly the warheads are on slave part.
I wanted to get to that in themes, but you're right. Like that's essentially what they're selling at first.
That's not theoretically. I guess.
You know what?
Yeah, you're right. It is heavily attached to the themes of this. But
you know what I think it is that none of those are shocking enough to have the normal populace realize how evil this company is. They need horse people, and even that isn't shocking enough. When it's revealed, their stock goes way through the roof.
Yeah,
that's true.
It's funny that you say that, because like I was pretty much over the fact that he was selling weapons in slavery about as fast as he was.
Yeah, I was going to say, even he was pretty much over pretty quickly as well.
Just like, hey, look at how much money I'm giving you. All right.
Yeah, this is fine.
Sure. So, but if we're going the scores, I'm looking at a pretty strong 2. I don't know if I'm going to give it a 3. Like, well, I think it held together quite well. I guess maybe not because of the left turn per se, but certainly that's a factor. And the things we just said, it was a solid plot. Like, it wasn't as if like, it's difficult because of the nature of this film, I suppose. But overall, I think it held together well enough, even though it might have like sort of took a number of loops and so forth, like to get to its end of its narrative. So, what do you guys think?
I'm going to have to give it a 3, and I'm basing that bit off of the fact that my attention was so focused on what was happening.
Okay.
I was just like, and around once it hit the third act, just like, wow, this movie's been keeping me so far. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Now I have to sit here and watch the end of this.
It was. I agree with that. It was a wild, surreal ride up until that point, and
That's
then
well
it just
said.
took this crazy ass left turn, which, you know, maybe the movie didn't need it, but I enjoyed it. I love the extension of it into like pure absurdity.
I think what helped that out a lot is Armie Hammer just playing it so straight.
Oh my God.
Sure. He did a great job.
A fantastic Jeff Bezos.
Yeah.
Should have had a shaved head.
So are you giving it a 3 then, Steve-O, as well?
Yeah, I'm gonna give it a 3. I really liked how this movie held together, and I was into it from start to finish. I will say that.
All right, I'm giving it a strong 2 as well, Scott. Here's the thing. I'm more like Squeeze in this movie, in that I am angry that he's selling drones, and that to me should be enough. That should be enough. And maybe the point they're making with the horse, there was it
Equisapien man,
was to get the attention of the people who are numb to it already. But I'm not numb to it, and I felt that it kind of muddied what I felt was a really strong two acts of describing racial relations, class relations, all of that. And I felt it, because it became so jokey towards the end with it, although it's heavily violent and revolutionary at the end, it kind of obscured what I thought was a very strong film. So I'm giving it the 2.
It's tough because you guys make a good case for 3, but I still think like if I give it a 2.5, I would do that. But I think I'm going to give it a very strong 2, but just not quite enough for a 3. But I still enjoyed it. Like
that's fair.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't like I was fine with the left turn, the horse people turn. I guess we'll call it. Maybe we'll coin a term here. Like it was fine, but also yes, like I see.
Can we use that from now on?
Yeah, we're going to
further
trademark
episodes,
right now.
Horse people turn.
Yep, trademark right now. But yeah, like, and also to your point, E, I agree with that as well. Maybe more to an extent. So overall, I'm still going to end up with a very strong 2, just not quite a 3.
All right. This is 2 2s and 2 3s.
Yep.
And it moves us on to Ian with themes.
My, oh my, was this film
Go for it, sir.
thick with themes. So the main character has to become white, or use his white voice to move forward in this society, in this corporate society, until he makes it when they want him to be black, stereotype, and they can't see him as anything but. Then they have the whole Amazon world that they've developed, where workers are now living in the warehouse.
Megacorps.
The idea of unions building up, and then someone becoming management and no longer supporting the workers that they rose through the ranks with, because now they have something to lose.
And those corporations planting people, which is a main part of the horse plot, we'll say. Yeah. Those corporations planting people within the ranks to stop unions from
to control and keep them oppressed. Yeah,
and they had like entertainment being vacuous in modern
like
America.
almost. I said like I think it was almost like Idiocracy kind of style shit.
Mm-hmm.
But this is the writer of this. He has a do you remember his name?
Boots something. It was a very odd name.
He has a lot to say, and he says it very forcefully in this, and it's very pertinent to today's society, where mega corporations have all the power, and workers, the Supreme Court is busting unions, taking away the payment, all of that. It's really well done here, and I have to give him a lot of credit for it.
No, you absolutely. I largely agree that he threw in a number of like very important and relevant themes, as you said, like class war and even race relations and selling out. Like how far are you willing to go to compromise your morals and your attachment to the community in order to rise above and be successful, and even like the corrupt corporate nature of a lot of things. It's like it was all well handled. They all threw it in there. Maybe, as you were saying earlier, like that the fact that they originally the setup is once Cassius rises high enough to be a power caller, right? Then they tell him like, oh, your actual job is basically trafficking human slaves and selling drones to those who are going to use them. Like that should be a commentary unto itself, but then they sort of go even, as we said, further and bizarrely on top of that. But nevertheless, it's all still there, and like you said, very relevant. And you can get a lot out of it. Yes, the director seemed to like almost throw them all into a blender, but I think they were all handled and at least certainly contained in the film to a degree that I thought were handled quite well. So,
honestly, I think that the themes of this movie are genius. The inspiration points that are drawn not only to the specific struggles that he's talking about, but also to the references to like a lot of movies and like things that have come before are really forceful and great. I I said, like, it was almost like a Terry Gilliam movie meets like
Certainly.
a Spike Lee movie, but also like you get portions of Spike Jones movies. Like it feels like almost
I would say Mike Judge.
like Idiocracy to a point. It feels almost like what's the movie I'm trying? Whatever. I'll come back to it. But you get all these references thrown in that are like very important to the theme of this movie and kind of these touchstones that this movie goes back to time and time again. The race relations thing is super important, and that's kind of why I like throwing in this bizarre other race that like comes in
fantastical race
that just comes in at the end, and it's like now there's this whole other level that Jeff Bezos, Army Hammer, is trying to attack already before it's even a thing. Like he's creating it, but he's already trying to control it immediately. The unions that will inevitably come about and things like that. I just think a lot of it is like really fascinating, and they kept, as you said, Ian, like forcefully talking about all these things throughout, and without being too on the nose about anything. I think
good point.
Without being too like hammer you over the head with any of the themes, they talked very forcefully about all of them.
Aside when they're literally punching people in the face for.
But that was the part that reminded me of Idiocracy, right? It's like ouch my balls is basically the same exact thing.
It's clearly the most parallel for sure.
But a very strong one for me.
Yeah, I enjoy so much that he chose telemarketing as the job. Having been a telemarketer and having to use a white voice in order to help sell products, and seeing like telemarketing, like he Army Hammer says, like they chose him because he's the type. Cash is the type of guy that'll stab his best friend to get more cash, and like them dangling this carrot in front of you that entire time. I've seen it happen where people have like gone on to management and have thrown so many people under the bus.
Yeah, it's a very
just to
real
get ahead
thing, for sure.
And solid one for me.
Yeah, Suzanne was well handled. Yeah, I feel you.
I guess one's all around, right?
Yep.
And it's going to bring us to Scott with Antag.
All right, one of my favorites. So I guess we'll go two ways. You can either call it corrupt corporations as a sort of abstract general thing, as embodied by Armie Hammer, who played, he's like some like, I think his name was Steve Lift, or like something like stupid.
Steve Lift.
Something like that. So like, but I don't know, like it could just be the tensions in society, which I know is sort of a cop-out answer as well, but as we just laid out in themes, that was definitely contained therein, and certainly many characters felt antagonized by it in a nebulous sense, I would say. So, but if we're calling it like an actual character, definitely I think Armie Hammer did a great job as sort of like the faux affably evil sort of kind of CEO of a corporation who's indulging in very shady practices, and even like a shadier / fantastical one on top of that, which is revealed later on.
And tremendous lines of coke.
Yes, like
enormous.
Again,
fucking ridiculous.
satirical lines of blow.
I love the one that he gets.
Cash.
Like
it's a fucking
It's
spiral. On a plate. Yeah, it's ridiculous. Again, it's
on a horse plate.
Yeah, that's like your fucking Terry Gilliam kind of shit right there, for sure. But yeah, so I think he did a good job as personified by that. And yeah, many characters were even struggling with themselves. So there's even a subplot between Cassius and his girlfriend, Detroit, played by Tessa Thompson, where like she's like this like sort of out there performance artist, but her day job is basically a sign spinner. She works with him briefly at the telemarketer thing too. Like she's part of the sort of underground group that's revolting against the corporation.
By the way, also going into themes where people needing to work like multiple jobs just in order to stay afloat.
Yeah, true. Good point. Like exactly.
I mean, what do you? Sign spinning should be enough to like, hold down.
You can't sustain yourself on sign spinning. What the fuck? But no, I
probably could have watched about like 20 minutes of footage of her dancing with that sign.
Yeah, it was a good gag every time.
Her. What about Squeeze doing?
Steve Young. Yeah,
that was ridiculous. Those b-boy moves.
Yeah, it was awesome.
I'm gonna go with that wasn't actually him.
No.
Yeah, no shit, because
Never
of
saw
the cut.
his face.
But nevertheless, I think I'm giving Antagonist a pretty solid one because it does embody, like, you can see, like, perhaps we can call it, like, wrestling with your own morals, as Cassius had to do himself, so.
Look, the real antagonist here is the lazy American worker who thinks they're entitled. Jeff
Sure.
Bezos wouldn't need to create horse people if it wasn't for
The people worked
the
as harder
greed
generally
of his workers.
of unions.
But no, seriously though, I love the face they put on corporate America here, and just how ridiculous it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not that much less ridiculous than shown in this movie.
You know what?
Sadly enough,
They're probably doing this shit right now.
They're working on horse people right now.
No, I was said that to Scott after we got out of the movie that they shouldn't have made this movie because Jeff Bezos is going to watch it and say, putting people in cells in my warehouse so they can live, brilliant idea.
He's working on it right now, for sure.
Yeah.
But no, like I think it's strong all around for antagonists,
Very
regardless
strong.
of what you call it.
Yeah,
I think they're all
there's
actually
so much
in
to
there.
choose from.
Yeah, exactly.
Very strong
Yes.
one. It's
well said.
It's like corporate America personified in Army Hammer.
Yeah.
Steve Lift. And super strong one.
All right, one's all around. Looks like.
Yep. So I'll bring us to Steve-O with protagonist.
Cassius Green.
Cash Green, man.
Cash is green.
Perhaps the most on the nose part of this entire movie.
You know what? Before you go on, it took me like a scene or two to put that together. I'm like, oh yeah, okay, that's a good pun.
But Lakeith Stanfield, is that his name?
Yeah.
He
Yes.
does a great job in this flick, and I've
Yep.
been waiting. He was in Get Out, and he's in Atlanta. I've been waiting for him to get a starring role in something, and I'm so happy he did because he killed it in this. I love his performance. I've liked him as an actor since I've known about him, basically, and I'm super happy that he got his chance to star in a role. The character Cash is multidimensional, really good. He has a great arc.
Yep, he goes through a struggle.
Going from having nothing to having everything to realizing that having everything isn't
selling
everything.
out.
Yeah. And this movie actually has a slightly, well, right until the very, very end, has a slightly happier ending than I expected.
Mm-hmm.
And then he turns into a horse. Spoilers.
And
you know what got me about that is that he's basically doing exactly what they wanted him to do, just not on their payroll.
Yeah.
Like he's now like in the position to be the Martin Luther King of the equestrian.
Yeah, but he's not quite doing what they want him to do because he's not under their control now.
Well, yeah,
He's
he
coming at
leads
them.
the revolution to their doorstep.
Yeah.
But they have an antidote, and he knows that.
Supposedly.
Look,
It is not up in
to
the
his
air.
knowledge, they have antidotes. They have a way to control him.
Well, that's why he's going to fucking kick the hell out of
Because
Jeff
he
Bezos.
said there was an antidote, but he also said he didn't give him the changing powder in the first place.
Right.
It's like, I'm not evil.
That's
Yeah,
true.
I mean, like, you can't like believe a word that this dude fucking says. I thought that was clear from the moment you met him.
I'm
but-
saying that.
Just the idea of the antidote is a way to control him.
Absolutely.
yeah,
That's a
fair.
good point.
I mean, nobody knows what happens afterwards, right? And
Sure.
and please don't make a sequel to this.
I always imagine the darkest timeline.
Sure.
So,
He's just a
After-
horse forever.
No, he wins the revolution and becomes the
The
next.
Martin Luther King of horse.
No, not even that. No, he becomes the Steve Lift of the equestrian. That would be the darkest timeline. But regardless, I do agree he did a great job. Go ahead. What?
Nothing. But, yeah,
I'm just basically, I don't have much more to say because you said a lot of it. Like, yeah, I thought he did a great job in the role, and his arc and his characterization was well done throughout. And it made a lot, like, he was definitely very relatable, and it made sense, even though, like, sure, there was some magical realism / surreal parts to it.
Yeah.
Nevertheless, it was grounded in a very, like, realistic sort of light, so.
Agree. Everybody else? Ones? Anybody else?
One's for you guys, I'm right.
All right.
All right, so that's back to me with supporting. Solid turn from turns out to be an all-star cast, pretty much.
Yeah.
Like man, I guess we'll just start naming favorites.
Mhm.
It's hard to-
Go ahead, you first.
All right, let's see. I'm gonna say Danny Glover first.
Ah,
All right. Good one.
See, the older, wiser telemarketer.
Well, he's the one who teaches them about use your what?
teaches them about the voice, and actually foreshadows the dark shit that they do up top. And I wish he had heeded his words, but also, and I'm sorry, I'm going to take Detroit from you guys too.
That's cool.
But
Tessa's great for sure.
Her trying to keep Cash grounded, and her earrings.
Yeah.
No,
Well,
the earrings.
I think you would count that as part of style. One of you was going to do that. But definitely was amazing for sure.
Yeah.
All right, so yes, I agree.
Just skipping over.
Well, I was going to just jump in. You go.
All right, so we're going down the line for things.
Yeah.
Terry Crews.
Yep.
Uncle
Yeah.
Sergio.
Good call.
He's great in everything he does.
All right, so 2 things. Should we count David Cross and Pat Nava's voice
Sure.
as like supporting characters? Because I think that added a lot to it, added a lot of dimensions. But
I almost call David Cross like part of the protagonist.
part of Cassius?
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, because he had to do a lot of the heavy lifting.
Yeah.
I suppose that's fair. But for actual characters, there might be like an overlooked one that I don't even know the actor's name or even the character's name, but Cassius is not the guy who hires him, but his like
Salvador, I think is that his name? His
buddy?
best friend?
no, not his buddy, the tattooed manager.
the tattooed manager. Oh, that
There's
guy
a
was
montage of them like
awesome.
high five. Yeah, like that guy got a lot of laughs from me
They actually
with the role that he had.
surprisingly had a lot of overly long gags in this movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
That being one.
But,
of them.
but they actually kind of worked. Like I was
Yeah.
okay with it. So like that guy was pretty fun. But Steve Yeun also did a great job as sort of like I guess he sort of goes around in the world in this vaguely dystopian 20 minutes in the future world they live in, where he goes around and joins an office or a job like this, and then organizes a union or like a strike in order
That's
to
a nice, that's
in
a
order
nice
to better
little like
things.
bit added onto his character that I wasn't expecting.
Yeah,
Like he's a career.
yeah, like that's
center.
what he does exactly.
Yeah.
Like, his job is to unionize like the ununionized throughout like the disenfranchised and the downtrodden workers. So I thought that was pretty good. But yeah, overall for sure, the whole supporting cast, like all the cameos, like you guys said, Terry Crews and Danny Glover were excellent as well. And just all around, I think they all deserve a 1. So I don't know if I left anybody
I
for
agree.
you.
There's not really anybody left. His best buddy, I think, did a good job, but I think
His name was Sal, yeah.
It was Sal. He was overwhelmed by all the other characters, I think. Like, he was fine, but if I had to pick a breakout character from this who wasn't Lakeith Stanfield, it wouldn't be him. You know, like
Fair enough.
I think he did a great job, but there were other characters that got more meat than
Oh,
he
there's
did.
one we forgot. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Eye Patch Carlton.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was fine. Yeah, the
Mari Hardwick.
Yeah.
there was one other one, like she wasn't in it much,
Oh,
but
the manager.
Debbie
Debauchery?
Debauchery.
Yeah.
I thought she did a good job with like this limited time and role that she had.
Debo Cherry.
Looks like debauchery. It's not, which
It's not.
sort of flows into dialogue, which I think we're about to get to.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's right. His eye patch manager who never
So
you didn't get to hear his name because it got
Yep.
Yeah. It was like
bleeped out every
Yeah.
time they said it.
as if they were like showing his loss of identity within
Yeah.
the company. But like, I was fully waiting for him to at some point lift up the eye patch, and it turns out he's a member of the Left Eye organization
Yeah,
who's
yeah.
been like working behind the
Yeah.
scenes this entire time. But
Yeah, none of them would wear that sweater he wore.
that was
Unless they were super deep undercover.
Maybe. But either
But
way,
yeah,
I'll just wear this
Actually,
card. Yeah.
That's an interesting thing because his eye patch is always over his left eye, right? Like that has to be that can't be coincidence,
signifies
right?
something. I didn't even think
But
about
what-
it, but
Because he never actually went against the company. So like, what is that? I don't know.
Like when he was giving him directions, I thought he was telling him like giving him a way out.
Yeah,
nah.
But nope.
no,
Not interesting.
I don't know.
I didn't think
Yeah,
about it, but
that's a good call. But
solid.
anyway, very
Yeah.
strong ones all around for everything
Mhm.
that you guys mentioned. And
yep.
Yeah.
I agree.
This brings us to Ian with dialogue.
Very good dialogue to sometimes great dialogue. The white voice, and I guess it's part of style too, them having to mimic
Yeah, it's kind of like
that
overlapping.
as well. Very well done. And I don't know, just overall, I think that it's both dealt with the themes incredibly well, but it's also took a very serious matter and made it subversive by not taking it particularly serious,
Right.
but still got the themes across. I don't know, I just thought it was very well done.
No, I agree. They did a nice fine line where it was snappy enough, and while some of it sort of like maybe could come out of left field, it was still engaging. Like nothing was definitely cringeworthy or eye rolling or anything. There was definitely some good bits, some good exchanges, some good back and forth. And you're right, like because of the white voice thing and maybe some other things, sort of flow into style. But the straight up dialogue I think was quite strong, so I'm gonna give it a strong 1.
I mean, I completely agree. There were a lot of very fascinating parts of this film in terms of dialogue and like how characters talk to each other, how characters talk to one character and not to another character, or how like what the differences were between how they talk to other people. And I really want to see this again just to be able to see a little bit more of that.
Yeah.
And to be able to delve into that a little bit more, because I think that, I mean, unless I'm mistaken, but I think that a lot of attention was paid to the ways that characters interacted with each other depending on who they were, power balances.
Yep. Good point.
In terms of power balances, in terms of like racial balances, things like that. So I think that the dialogue was really well constructed and really well done, and really well acted as well. So I'm going to give it a strong one.
Yep. 100% agree.
Yeah, I'd want to learn that entire exchange between Cash and Sal when they were just complimenting the shit out of each other.
Oh my god, it was brilliant.
Hope you have a great month.
Hope you have a great. Hope I have a great year.
Yeah.
Hope I have a great year.
I was like, saying, you're an awesome man. No, you're a fine, perfect, amazing man.
All right.
Yeah.
You smell nice. You smell
That's
amazing.
it. Yeah. Forgot about
It's just
that.
deodorant.
Yeah, you're right.
It smells expensive.
That was a great bit, and it was fucking pure gold.
Oh god.
So good.
So Exhibit A, if nothing else, for giving dialogue a 1.
Yeah.
All right, Scott. Style.
Hell yeah, man. So the first thing I'll bring up is, I'm sorry to take it from everybody else, but Tessa Thompson's earrings throughout were like an amazing continuing gag, running gag throughout. But even like because of the nature of it, sort of like, again, like a Brazil kind of sort of surreality, sort of magical realism kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So when Cassius first learns his white person voice, when he calls people, it's as if they do it like they shoot it as if he's in the room with whoever he's calling.
That's even before he does the white.
Oh, that's right. You're right. So you're right. I'm sorry. Even before that, right? So that was a good, like, a cool visual gag. Where like he calls like a chick and she's like banging her boyfriend, or whatever, and like still answers the phone. He's trying to like sell her shit. He calls an elderly woman who starts breaking down because her husband's in the hospital with cancer. He's still trying to sell her something.
Following the script.
Yeah. Like all that stuff. There's a bunch of like great background visual gags. Like a lot of the when they do the left, like the revolutionaries who are like trying to speak out against the corporation, where they deface like billboards and stuff like that. But the shots themselves, like everything about it was, again, because of the nature of the story and the premise, if you buy into it, then you know, like, it's not like, it's almost uncanny valley, right? It's real, but not quite real a lot of times.
Right.
So what you're trying to say.
Yeah, so like, but I think that worked a lot. I thought it was very strong visual style. And again, all the visual sight gags and puns worked for me, so.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that one of the first ones was, so when he first starts like dropping into people's houses as he's making the calls, every time he comes back in the background for no apparent reason, just papers are flying around in the copy room.
Fixing the copy.
I'm just like laughing my ass off because every time he comes back from like somebody's house, there's more and more papers flying around.
It's like the room is filling up.
The entire room is like filling up with papers and shit.
I also appreciated that the better he got at it, the more he started interacting with the rooms that he appeared in.
Yeah.
Like when he turns on the bidet for the Japanese businessman.
Yeah.
Just right. Like really fascinating stylistic choices, like really cool stuff. I don't know. I really like this. The style of this movie was, this style and themes were probably the two very, very much the strongest points of this movie, and they were very, very strong.
I feel you.
I do have one more gag that I appreciated throughout the movie. I think it's the photo of his father.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
In the car.
Good call.
That keeps changing.
Yeah.
To see whether his father would approve or disapprove of what's going on.
What's happening, yeah.
It is.
It's really good. Yeah.
The final one of him just like happily just like sliding over the rim of his car.
Yeah.
Doing like a
clicking his heels.
Yeah,
you're right. So it was all damn solid throughout, for sure.
I was trying to think of my favorite one.
Don't forget about the horse people.
Oh yeah, the horse people. Yeah.
Well, actually, I was waiting for one of you to like talk about
solid prosthetics.
Their presentation. Yeah, it was believable enough. Like I said, uncanny valley-ish kind of.
And what was it? Pretty much the reactions of everybody. Like when either when somebody like did something ridiculous or like things got like out of hand, just like the reaction shots of like the side characters. Like for example, when Squeeze is doing that whole speech, and that devolves into him complaining about like chlamydia,
getting an STD,
and then like you see Sal's face, like
he's like listening to. He's like, yeah, I guess I support that.
every time somebody's watching TV, it feels like Idiocracy.
Mhm.
Honestly, that's the strong vibe I got. But like a really good it's like 3 channels.
Yeah.
The entire time.
Right. It's basically news, 2 news stations, and getting shit kicked out of people.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it.
And that show is on 24/7 on one channel. There's always like real news, and then there's the company's.
Oh, the ads for the company. Yeah.
The company's ads. Those are the only 3 things on TV, which I think is probably a dig on like everything on TV is basically the same.
Right.
Like,
Of course, it's a satire on that. You're right.
And I want to talk about Detroit's performance art,
Her show. Yeah.
So, sorry. Continue.
I went on a date once to an event that was very similar to that.
Shit.
So, yeah.
Is it realistic then?
It's incredibly realistic.
Okay.
What was hilarious to me is I knew exactly what line she was going to do as soon as she said the last dragon.
Yeah.
It's like, yes.
That's
I'm going to get more of a kick out of this than anybody else in the theater.
Nice. Yeah, so it was a good reference, a good call, and like we all just said, style all around. Like you said, Steve, I agree. Probably tied with themes for one of the strongest aspects of Sorry to Bother You. So
Yeah.
So it brings us to Steve with a recommendation.
Yep. Recommend it. Go watch this movie if you want to see a good movie. I mean, we've talked about all the reasons why it's good. It's usually I say like, if you want to see this, go see this.
No, go see it.
And just go see it.
no, I would agree. Like, yeah, it's maybe I guess if you're not into like films of this nature, at least the premise. But I thought it was fucking damn solid. I do want to see it again, which has become my new gold standard for like sort of recommendation. So I absolutely would see it again. And yeah, it was sort of a, how should I say? This is a movie you don't see a movie like this very often. At least it's not a thing that Hollywood does a lot, right? It's to me like the suits who like whoever picked up this movie is like, I'm not sure if this is gonna work, but we're gonna greenlight it, and thank God they did because it was fucking great.
Might I dial back a bit from mine? I think that a lot of people won't like this movie. I still think those people should see it. I think that like it's good to see movies that are out of your comfort zone. Like there are a lot of people that'll be like, I don't get it, or like, why the fuck are there horse people, or like.
I think if you don't tell anybody about the horse people or the twist at the end, and just tell them to go see the movie, then it'll work for them.
I actually did that very thing because we happened to run in, at least when I was seeing it in theaters, we ran into a friend of ours, and I was like, without saying too much, I told her like, you're gonna like it. Yes, it gets a little out there, but I'll say nothing else.
Perhaps you should tell them about the horse people first.
You think so?
I think I would have enjoyed this more knowing it was going to
coming.
happen.
Yeah.
See, I felt the opposite because I was actually going to. I wasn't sure if I was going to make the showing today, so I was gonna like, I don't know, look up the look up the synopsis and like read through what happened, and I decided against it. I made it in time, and I felt all the better for it when that twist came.
I'm really happy I didn't know about that because it was so weird when it happened, and I was like, oh, I'm like honestly surprised at a movie which hasn't happened for a long time where I'm like, oh, I'm very surprised at this twist.
It didn't work as well for me as it seems to have worked for you guys. However, I think that thematically, this is very on the nose of where America is today.
Yes, I would definitely agree with that.
I think it should be seen because you need to laugh at the tragedy that's going on, and I think it might make people who even would be uncomfortable with hearing the messages be able to hear it.
No, that's a very good point. It's more serious, but I do agree with it, and yeah, I definitely, like I said, recommend it for all those factors.
Are we all giving it a 1?
Recommended as well.
All right. Well, I'll try to do the scores for you. Rich and Steve-O, you guys have given it a 10, it looks like. And Ian and I have given it followed closely behind me by a 9, which I believe cuts up to a 9.5 overall. And yeah, I think
good math.
It's not a perfect movie, but it's damn good. And like I said, like you don't see something like this very often, but I'm glad that it is coming out, and I'm glad to have seen it.
This movie is definitely going to stick in my mind for the rest of my life.
Exactly. And I think that's a good thing. It's a sign of how well done it was.
Completely agree.
Yep.
Oh, well, that brings us to the end. I've been Rich Perry, joined by Jonathan Manzer,
Horse people.
Scott Thurlow,
Left Eye Forever.
and Stephen Hermosi.
Once again, sorry to bother you.
And I am not sorry to bother you. Have a good night.
See you next time.
Editing and engineering by Christopher Morgan. Music by Christopher Morgan. Check us out on YouTube and iTunes for the shows, and on Facebook and Twitter for updates. Or Mott's?